All right. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're watching this presentation. My name is Bree Trainer. I'm the Assistant Director of Mental Health Outreach for Western Michigan University. While we're experiencing the COVID-19 pandemic, the shelter in place in our state in Michigan, our mental well-being has been a big topic of conversation, and for valid reason. So much of our world has been turned upside down, and this impacts all of us in different ways. This is a time where we really need to pay attention to our well-being overall. And you may have heard before, we focus on the 8 dimensions of wellness. Those are physical, emotional, spiritual, social, environmental, intellectual, occupational, and financial. And while all of these components of wellness are so important during this time, today, specifically for this presentation, we're going to focus more on emotional wellness and mental well-being. But you'll notice as we go through that other components of well-being are also interwoven in, as they all relate to each other in different ways. So I like to have a roadmap with kind of where we are going for the rest of the training here. So this is kind of a quick overview of what we're going to be covering today. The impact of COVID-19 and just seeing, is what I'm experiencing or what I'm feeling normal? Is this what other people are experiencing? We're also going to talk about a lot about taking care of your mental wellness during this time. So during the pandemic, a recession, during this difficult time of our lives of social isolation. And then last but not least, we'll give you some resources. Hopefully you'll learn a couple of new ones or things that Western is doing to help during this period of distance education as well. So going right into it here, I think if I were to do a poll of everyone who's watching and ask, how is COVID-19 impacting your life, we would be able to come up with an exhaustive list, I'm sure. So this is just a few, but it's impacting us in so many different ways. And so some of these might be true for you, maybe not all of them, maybe some of them. But just to know that you're not alone in this, and that the pandemic here is impacting us all in different ways. So here are just a few examples. One of the first ones that comes to mind is canceled events and plans. So I don't know about you, but I had different trips or experiences, times planned that had to get canceled. So those could be anything from a spring break trip to going to a wedding, to trips planned, birthdays to celebrate, in general, your college experience, whether it was your freshman year or your last year here and you really planned to celebrate and enjoy that time with friends. Even graduation or senior showcase projects, internships, a lot of those things were canceled, and that's so hard. So that's been, I think, a huge impact for a lot of folks. Basic needs not being met, and some of that comes from financial insecurity, kind of the third point there too, but between loss of employment or not being able to find a job or keep your job due to the economic uncertainty right now in our country, basic needs are also not being met. So maybe we don't know where you're going to be living this summer, or you're lost a job and now don't have money for food or to pay rent, things like that. We're seeing those are both have been huge impacts to our students. Health concerns, whether that's for yourself, your health, or others, family members, friends. It's really a trying time where we're seeing health impact our mental well-being, and vice versa, that physical health and mental well-being really impact each other a lot and are concern for other people. Social isolation has a big impact as well, with different state policies and mandates, making sure that we stay home to keep ourselves and others healthy, but that certainly has been difficult for many in different ways. Environmental triggers, so just as an example, a lot of our environment now has changed. So some of us are now working from home, where we used to go go to work, or schooling. You're now doing all of your education at home. And home life is not great for everybody. So for some people, being in your home, maybe where you grew up or with family members, sometimes that can trigger things in different ways, or being back in a certain place can be triggering. So just your environment and where you're spending time is impactful. And certainly last but not least, unfortunately, we've seen this come through kind of on a nationwide scale, that there has been some discrimination and stigma towards certain populations, as well as international students, depending on the country where they have traveled from or have lived. And so people are responding to that in different ways, and it's certainly unfair because the color of our skin or ethnicity or where we're coming from oftentimes doesn't have a lot to do with if you have COVID-19 or not. So it's unfortunate to see that impact as well that we're seeing. So there's a lot of reactions that can happen during this time of an infectious disease outbreak, a pandemic, or a recession. And I think the economic recession, I think, is starting, and we're just getting there. So there's a lot of feelings that can happen. And before I even start on this slide, I think it's important to know that all of these reactions are valid and normal to be experiencing. So please keep that in mind. And these are just some of the examples. Again, things that you could be feeling: stress, overwhelmingly stressed, anxiety, sadness, fear or worry, irritability, anger, frustration, loss of control, lots and lots of things. With fear and worry, we might be worried that our health status, or our loved ones that they've been exposed to COVID-19 or may be impacted. There's so many unknowns and uncertainty. When it comes to grief or loss, this is a big one, actually, that I think a lot of these feelings can be encompassed with grief or loss. In a way, we really are grieving the loss of different things during this pandemic. We're losing a lot of our freedoms for right now. We're losing a predictable future. We're losing some of our control and the lives and roles that we had. Our normal has been turned upside down, like I said earlier, and I think that's a loss that we're experiencing of what our normal lives were like. So it's normal to grieve that, and it's okay to mourn the loss of these experiences and things that we had planned. If you were set to graduate this year, it's okay to feel sad about that you're not going to be necessarily walking across that stage. Maybe you will, I don't know for sure. But we're experiencing collectively something called collective grief because we're all losing something right now. And even, you can experience grief if it feels like a loss of your identity, which might feel like that for you right now. Some of our identity, pieces of our identity that we hold so true, we're losing some of those pieces maybe for the temporary time. So, and just generally an overall mental health decline. So you may not be able to put kind of a feeling on it or pinpoint exactly what those feelings are, but you may just be not feeling yourself and feeling like your mental well-being is declining. Again, these feelings are valid. Let me say that again. Whatever you're feeling is valid. And if 1 hour you're feeling angry and the next you might be crying, but then maybe something later today makes you smile or laugh, again, normal. Right now, these are times that are unpredictable, and there's a lot of emotions that a lot of us are feeling. Some examples of feelings and how they can quickly change on a day-to-day basis is maybe you're feeling this angry, or you're feeling so distraught or tired and you don't even know what is going on. Maybe anxious comes to mind when I see this clip, as just anxiously eating and not knowing what to do, but just trying to fill that void with something. Seriousness, concern, worry, lots of different things. So again, all of these feelings are valid. The feelings too can affect our behavior and vice versa. So the things that we do, our behavior, can impact the way that we feel. And the way that we feel can impact the way that we behave or the things that we do. So the environment and the impact that we're experiencing in this pandemic have an impact certainly on our behavior. So here are just a couple of examples that you might be seeing in yourself over the last month or so, since we've been staying at home with social isolation due to the COVID-19. So some changes that you may have seen is that your overall day-to-day routine is different. I think most of us could say that since we're not going places or doing things that we normally would have. So generally your routine is different. You may have noticed an increase or decrease in activity levels. You may have noticed changes in eating or sleeping patterns, difficulty concentrating or difficulty relaxing. Some people also may notice an increased or decreased, but I think more are seeing an increased use of alcohol, tobacco, or other drugs, which is not obviously a great way to be coping with the difficult feelings. So we'll talk about alternatives here in a little bit. And then just overall, you may have noticed a possible worsening of chronic health problems. And that's kind of the biopsychosocial idea that the way that we are feeling and interacting can actually have an impact on health, physical health as well. So noticing some differences. So I want you to take this moment here to pause. Pause the screen and maybe pull out a pad of paper or pen, or just type on an electronic note on your phone or whatever. But I want you to write down responses or reflect on the following questions. So I'll just read the questions out here. Go ahead and then pause your screen, and then when you're finished responding to these questions, then you can go ahead and play again for the remainder of the training. Wondering, in what ways have you been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic? So I gave you a list of some ideas, but what ways have you been impacted? What are the feelings that you've been experiencing? Again, I gave that list, but wondering which ones have you experienced? And then what ways have your routine changed, or has your behavior changed? So again, I gave examples, but just wondering, in what ways have yours changed? So go ahead, pause, and then play when you are ready. All right, so hopefully you're able to kind of reflect on some of your own ways that you've noticed your changes here since the COVID-19 pandemic. And now we're going to kind of, the second half here is going into tips to deal with all of this stuff, the uncertainty, the difficult feelings, and overall how to better your mental well-being, especially during this time. These tips can be used, of course, any time of life, depending on if we're in a pandemic or not. But there are some specific things, I think, during this uncertainty that we'll speak to. So we have 8 tips for your mental well-being, and we're going to start with number 1. Number 1 is being aware of stress signals. And this is all about paying attention to your body and your feelings for warning signs of distress. So how does your body tell you when you're stressed? For example, sometimes if people are stressed, they feel fogginess in their brain, difficulty concentrating, irritability, deep mood swings, or you're just really hyper-focused on problems or things that you have to do, things like that. Physical symptoms, sometimes when people are stressed, they experience shakiness, tension, aches and pains, a lowered immune system, skin issues, or gut issues. So the idea of being aware of your stress signals is that if you can recognize what you're feeling, you can also recognize then what triggered you to get to that place. So like certain conversations, people, or activities, things that you're doing. So if we can notice what is causing our stress, and when we feel stressed, then we can try to prevent that ahead of time, the unnecessary distress. So just being aware of what your stress signals are. The second one here is to name and claim your experience. So a little bit earlier, we talked some about grief and loss, and this one is especially helpful if you feel like you've lost something or are grieving the loss of experiences, which again, I feel like most of us are during this difficult time. So in order to name and claim what you're experiencing, really it's step one is putting into words what you are losing or missing. So what are the things that you're missing here? What are the things that you've lost? And then thinking about what can you do to strengthen those ties or honor or remember or cherish what was lost. And then finally, what have you lost in the past and how did you get through that experience? So although none of us have gone through this pandemic before, we can learn from some strengths that we have and ways that we've gotten through difficult periods in the past. Naming and claiming can give us some acceptance to what has happened to us so that we can start to move forward. So for example, actually, let's say you were set to graduate this spring and you're grieving the loss of that experience. So putting to words, I'm missing my graduation. I am grieving the loss of my graduation. So things that you can do to strengthen those ties, some examples or ideas, is having your own little celebration maybe in your home and kind of reenacting what graduation might look like and videotaping it and having video recording in. Maybe you're zooming in your friends or family to watch you pretend to walk across the stage or things like that. So things that you can do to try to still honor or remember or experience that, even though it's not what would have happened, but still giving it some type of recognition or celebration. So naming, claiming, again, it helps to give us some acceptance of what has happened so we can move forward. Staying connected is huge. We are in this together and we need to reach out to each other. It's a sign of strength to reach out to each other. Humans are social beings. End of story. Like, we need our support people. So it's important for you to check in with your loved ones. I know for me during this time, it's been really, really nice. I've been able to connect with some people that I don't always talk with this often. And it feels good for me when they check in on me and they say, hey, how's it going, Bree? Thinking about you, whatever. That means a lot. And so if that means a lot for me, that means if I'm also checking in on my people, it goes both ways to help us feel connected. Obviously, we have to minimize our physical contact with people, but that doesn't mean we can't be social. So we just need to find new ways to connect with friends and family virtually. And there's so many ways now to connect, and you all probably know more than I do. But some of the examples of things that I've found to work, obviously, FaceTime or Skype are kind of the old go-tos, but also there's Zoom or Google Hangouts, House Party, other virtual games. Marco Polo is one. So there's a lot of different types of apps or different things that we can do to still connect with people. I have truly found it to be imperative for my social wellness to video chat. I think phone calls are helpful and they're nice, but even just like for me to see a loved one's face is so much better than a phone call, and almost, it's not the same as being in person with them, but it helps a lot. So I encourage you to still stay connected in that way as much as you can. I do want to mention too that for each person, it's going to be different. So depending on your living situation, the answer for how you stay connected is going to be different. For those who live alone, you might have to seek out more social time, whether that's social media or video chats, than you normally would. For others who might be less, like you're living with family members who maybe you like or you're getting along with, or roommates, things like that, you might be spending more time interacting than normal. And so you might need more alone time. We're trying to figure that out. So it's going to be different depending on the situation, depending on your level of extroversion or introversion. So just keeping that in mind. We do have another virtual wellness workshop that's on this entire topic on social well-being. So you can explore some more options and ideas depending on your current living situation. So I encourage you to check that out too, if you want to learn more ideas. All right, number 4 is to maintain a routine. And this might seem silly, but maintaining some kind of a regular routine is so helpful. So just like I said, humans are social beings. We also are creatures of habit. You know how when you start a semester off and you sit in a one chair, you're maybe going to sit in that same chair the entire semester, because we are creatures of habit. Routines offer us a way to promote health and wellness through structure and organization. So actually, having a routine can greatly improve your health. So a routine also helps us to make the most of our time when we want to be productive, be social, relax, etc. So some of my ideas for maintaining routine is to, an example, starting your day with making your bed. Even if you've never done this before, maybe you never make your bed, but right now we're spending a lot more time in our homes and in that environment than we normally would. And that can impact our mental mood or our well-being. So that's an example of just trying it out, of maybe starting your day making your bed and get ready for the day. For me, for example, if I stay in my pajamas, or I usually wear contact lenses, so if I leave my glasses on and my pajamas on, the chances that I'm going to get much done is pretty slim. So I know for me that it helps if I actually get ready for the day. I change out of my PJs, I take a shower, put my contacts in. It just helps me to feel like I'm doing something or whatever, even if I'm not going anywhere. So those are some ways to kind of like start your day, get in a routine. Your sleep schedule as well. So maintaining a regular sleep schedule is critical for your immune system. So whatever that looks like for you. And then whatever activities you have going on that day. So some kind of a structure. What time of days are you going to work on your homework? If you are working, when are you working? When are you fitting in some time for hobbies or to be social? I've scheduled some different FaceTime or Google Hangouts with different people on different nights. So just having some kind of structure and some things to look forward to throughout your day. And then the last thing with maintaining routine is I've still been able to kind of treat my weekends as special days, because in a normal life, I guess, normal routine, not during a pandemic, weekends are kind of special days that, we're not working or doing as much schoolwork or what have you. So weekends, I'm still trying to stick to a routine, but being a little bit more of an exception to the rule of the weekdays. So again, maintaining some kind of a regular routine is going to be really helpful. Okay, number 5, keeping your body in good health. And this one is, again, I think all of these are imperative, but this one is so important too, that, and it also speaks to that intersectionality between the physical well-being and emotional, because this is going to impact how you feel so much. So by practicing good hygiene, especially cleaning your hands and following other guidelines set forth by the CDC, it's one way to keep your body in good health. We want to keep your immune system strong. And then things that you probably already know, but focusing on nutrition, watching kind of what you're eating and keeping that in good balance. Exercise, getting outside, staying hydrated with water. So all those good healthy habits that you know to be good for your health, those are especially important right now. One of the other things that I've noticed is the amount of caffeine that I'm consuming. So just making sure that depending on how caffeine affects you and your body, that can be something to keep an eye on, obviously in moderation. And then other self-care things and that will take care of your overall wellness. So we'll mention a few other self-care ideas as we go, but here are just a few ideas. To take a walk, get outside. That's been huge for me. Engage in physical activity. Some people really enjoy yoga. That's something that a lot of us can do from our home, and you really don't need any equipment to do so. Mindfulness as well, which we'll talk about in a minute. There actually are a lot of different apps or businesses that are offering free trials right now. I know the Peloton app is offering different, like a lot of their workouts, I think, for free right now. Core Power Yoga is offering some free workouts. What was the other one I was thinking of? Oh, well, our rec center, and we'll get to that at the end too, but our rec center is also filming workouts for us at Western. So there's lots of different ways we can be physically active, and these places are helping with that, which is cool. Other ideas to take care of your self-care is to draw or doodle, journal, organize or clean your space, listen to music, take a long shower, watch some of your favorite shows or movies or what have you, different things like that. So not spending too much time on this one just because I think we know oftentimes the right things are how to keep our body in good health, but it's just a good reminder that this is going to impact your mood and how you're doing overall. All right, focus on what you can control. So the experience of stress or anxiety, uncertainty right now, it's common. We've talked about that. And a lot of it comes down to feeling like we have a loss of control. We talked about that at the beginning. So when we have a loss of control, it's really hard to focus on what we can control because we're busy focusing on all the things that we can't do or that we don't have control over, right? So what I want you to start to practice is focusing on what you can control, and I'll give you some examples. The reason for this is because worrying about things that you can't change, that wastes energy and it doesn't change the outcome of the situation. Sometimes worrying about things just doesn't do anything for us. So, for example, so we cannot change the state of the world right now, really. I mean, we're in a pandemic. There's new policies to limit the spread of the virus. We can't control that. And we are impacted greatly, right? That's the situation. But sometimes we can turn that into a can example. So it's a good idea to stay informed, but be mindful of the media and news exposure that you're consuming. You can control this. If following the news and media causes you to feel anxious or distressed, you can decrease this exposure and set limits for yourself. So maybe you limit yourself to reading just 2 articles a day, or watching the news just for 30 minutes to get kind of the main bullet points. So you can set some limits and you have control over that. And you also have control to focus on the facts and get your news from reputable sources. So those are some things you can control. Other things you can control is your health to some degree here. Obviously, we talked about activity as you're able, nutrition as you're able, personal self-care, things that you are able to do. You may not be able to do all the hobbies that you normally do because of social distancing, but trying to focus on making a list maybe of the things that you enjoy that you can do. You have control over how you connect with people, how often you're being social with those video calls or phone calls or what have you, or social media. You have control over your attitude, your effort. Other things that you can do to feel like you have some control is to learn something new or start a project or again, practice a hobby, something like that. You also can, like the graduation example I gave earlier, is you can make alternate plans. So if something was canceled or postponed, you can think about ways that you can still celebrate. Even though it won't quite be the same, what can you do to still make that moment special? And generally, trying to focus on things that bring you happiness and bring you joy. So even when it feels like so much is out of our control, we have to remind ourselves that there are things that we can control. And sometimes it takes a little bit of practice to think of those, but once you get going, you can certainly think of, I think, hopefully I gave you some good examples of things that you can control during this time. All right, just two left here, and then we'll get into some resources. But practicing mindfulness has been a really big one for a lot of folks, and this ties into your overall well-being. That mindfulness and meditation can be really important for our mental health. And so the whole idea behind this is just being in the present moment. So I don't know about you, but I sometimes get stuck in the future with thinking about the things now that have been canceled, or I need to change my plans in the future, or the uncertainty in the summertime here coming up. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. There's so much that that can cause anxiety with that. And I'm a huge planner. I really like to plan. And so for me, that's really difficult. And so the whole idea behind mindfulness is to really focus on the present right now instead of worrying about the future, because worrying and constantly thinking about the future doesn't really serve us. Especially right now, we can only plan so much. And so again, what can I plan for right now? But the rest of it, I really need to let go. So it's important to practice being present in the moment. There's lots of apps that can help with this. So a meditation, one of the popular ones is it's called Headspace. Actually, here, I have them right here. So Calm. The Calm app is one that I've used before. They have, meditations from anywhere from like 30 seconds to a minute to longer, to 30 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever. So those are good ones. The orange one called Headspace, the governor in Michigan, Governor Whitmer, actually just partnered with them to offer a lot of their meditations and mindfulness videos and audios links to Michiganders. So I'll put these links here below the video once we're all done on YouTube. So you have links to those, but there's a lot that's available that you don't have to pay for, that those are free. And then this last one, the red one, is called Liberate. And this is the only meditation app by and for Black and African Americans. So this one is really awesome, I think, to have that additional app for a specific population too. So super cool, lots of different options. The other thing that I like to do with practicing mindfulness is, I guess it kind of goes along with gratitude, is just looking at what are the good things each day to balance out some of the negatives. So I try to look at maybe 3 different things, like what were 3 good things that happened today? Even little tiny wins, even if it was, I got dressed today, or I brushed my teeth or whatever. So even just celebrating those tiny wins can be helpful. All right, so and then reaching out for help. So again, just kind of wrapping up that the experience of your feelings and thoughts during this difficult time, it's normal, yet persistent feelings of sadness, anger, grief, if things are impacting you to a level that you're feeling is not going to be helpful to your overall wellness, obviously we want you to reach out for help, and there's a lot of ways to do that. So there's so many people on campus who are here for you, so many of us, and we want you to know that we're here during this difficult time. I'm going to put a lot of links here below so that you have access to them, but 2 that I want to mention really quick, due to financial concerns or food insecurity, we're still operating the Invisible Need Project and the Student Emergency Relief Fund. So those are 2 resources. So the Invisible Need Project has a food pantry that you can make an appointment for to get food, and it's of no charge to you as a student of Western. The Student Emergency Relief Fund is an application for up to $1,000 to help with any unexpected costs that you might have. So there are options that we can do to help. If you feel like you need help but you don't even know where to start, please call the Student Affairs Dean of Students office as well, and I'll include that link below. But we have a number of Student Affairs offices that are here for you. So, and there's a lot more, so I'm going to go into resources here coming up, but bottom line is that it's okay to be feeling the way that you're feeling, but the key is to not get stuck there, okay? We don't want you to get stuck. That's when you need to do something, reach out for help. Okay, so let's get into some self-care resources here, and then I'll get into some additional resources. So U Lifeline, this is, again, I'll link all of these below, but U Lifeline is a site that's got some really good info on mental health, specific to college students, helpful articles. They also have a self-evaluator tool, which is kind of nice if you're like, I don't know if I'm depressed, I don't know if I'm anxious. So, you can kind of take that self-evaluator tool to see a little bit more. There's also a site below that I've linked to SelfCare Plan, which is really cool. They have a ton of ideas about how to take care of yourself, and then a worksheet that you could do as well. There's also a BuzzFeed article that I linked below that has mental health Instagram accounts to follow that can be uplifting and can just kind of be like a positive light in your Instagram feed. So some different ones that you can follow there. And then there's others. So the Syndicuse Health Center counseling page, I'll link below. They have an entire page just of resources. So without linking everything on here, there's just a lot of resources that are listed there. So I encourage you to check those out. A couple other things here on campus that we're doing during the COVID-19 shelter-in-place distance education time. The Health Promotion and Education Office is offering other virtual wellness workshops. They also have a number of tools with their online education as well. So there, just below there, you can see the Facebook page. So a number of the videos will be linked on there, as well as on their website, which I will link below. The virtual fireplace is also a really great option. It addresses issues of sexual assault and other bias incidents. And so these are people that can help if you're experiencing any of those unfortunate circumstances. So they are doing a number of things virtually in order to still connect with you and reach you during this time. On the right side here, I have the Western Rec Center. They're also doing a number of things to still help you with your physical fitness during this time. They're offering virtual group fitness classes and challenges, mostly on their Facebook and Instagram pages. So go ahead and give them a follow as well. And then Syndicuse Health Center. So Health Center and counseling services are still available. They are offering telehealth services. I'm going to speak more to counseling here, but the health center they're both open and available. I think if you're experiencing any COVID symptoms, they'd like you to call ahead to the health center before going right in, but they're open and here for students. And then counseling services is also offering telehealth appointments, which is awesome. So those are the phone numbers there. I'll also include the link below for eligibility and information about the telehealth so that you can still have counseling appointments from your own home. And they've started some educational webinars that are for free. So again, I'll put that link below how to get involved in that. And then last but not least, if you do find yourself or a friend in a crisis situation, we have the National Suicide Crisis Lines always available and a good place to start if needed. So there's two different numbers here. One is to call, the one on the top. So you can call 1-800-273-TALK to talk to somebody. Or a lot of students really like the texting option. So you can text START to 741-741. If you are a person of color or not, or you just want to talk to somebody who might be of similar background to you, you can text Steve to 741-741. And just texting that word will automatically get you a person of color to talk to on the other line. Okay, so I think that is most of it. I wish that I could have questions in a normal in-person type of a presentation or training, but because we're not in person right now, I would love to hear from you if you have questions or comments, anything like that, or just want to talk more about well-being. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, my name is Bree Trainer, and my information is there. You also can contact the Health Promotion Education Office to talk more about wellness, well-being, different things like that. So that number is also there. And like I said, I will put all of the links that I discussed below in the description box here. And, you know, I guess just to wrap up, I think I want to say one last time that all of us here at Western Michigan, we're here for you. We know this is a difficult time. Things that I have to remind myself is that things will get better. They might not get better right away, but they will get better. We will get through this. And remember that everyone, including you, is doing the best that they can. So I thank you. I hope you find this information to be helpful as you manage and take care of your well-being during this difficult time of COVID-19. We are thinking of you. We are here for you. Go Broncos.